readying himself for a tough test in Yanapamshi. But this is probably our matchup of the day. And I was going to say potentially even the matchup of the tournament because these two were first place and second place a year ago. You know that Nodirbek Abdusattorov wants nothing more than to take down the person who stole his championship last year.
Yeah, it was close. It was a race to the finish, but it was Abdusattorov who stumbled last year, as you mentioned, Robert. Just on the brink of victory, he actually played Anish's countryman, Jordan Van Forest. He had the white pieces. A draw would have been enough to secure a platter of him on the brink of tournament victory last year. So Abdusattorov does have a bone to pick. He does have a score to settle. It was Anish who leapfrogged him, who profited from that slip up. And okay, we're only 2 moves into this one, but Anish is already away from the board, having dropped the Petrov defense in the opening. What are your thoughts on this start to the game? Looks like it surprised Abdusattorov.
Exactly what I was going to say there, David, that he caught Abdusattorov by surprise. Of course, Nodirbek has many games against the Petrov, but the opponent on the other side is usually the likes of a Fabiano Caruana. Anish Giri, not a renowned Petrov player. Many of the Chinese players, they play the Petrov, but not Anish. So, David, I'm going to throw the question back to you. This is a standard opening move, giving up the e5 pawn just to later win back the e4 pawn. Abdusattorov, after a little bit of thing, takes his pawn on e5. But do you like what Anish is doing because he has rattled Nodirbek just a couple moves into the game?
Yeah, it's interesting. A bit of mind games. Trying to recall now whether I have seen Anish play this on a regular basis. I'm sure he has done at some point, but it's definitely not his main opening. He's maybe more known for some Sicilians and some other kind of branches of E5. But the Petrov defense is the most solid opening out there. It's got this really, really kind of strong foundation to it. Often you see these symmetrical pawn structures. It's known to be a decent weapon if you want to just neutralize your opponent. And that can be frustrating. And again, after Anish's last move, kicking back this white knight, a pause from Abdusattorov. Like you say, Robert,
where he tasted glory and then it's a distant memory. He wants to recreate that memory. But Nodirbek Abdusattorov, he wants to create memories of his own. He, unfortunately for him, didn't make it down into the 13th and final round. It's when he lost to Jordan von Forest. He's saying, I'm going to defeat you head on, and I'm going to claim a first place tie after 7 rounds.
Oof, and there we go, G5, the decisive breakthrough. Not much black can do anymore. This might be the final touch, the final finesse to clinch victory. If black takes this pawn, as we've shown before, pawn to f6, deflection, and white's h-pawn marches through. Anish is forced to shuffle his king across now, and this is soon going to be the zugzwang we were talking about. Black will recapture a pawn, but black's king will be kicked sooner or later. White's king will be the one invading, and here we go. The white king is soon entering and picking off these black pawns. In the background, his compatriots, Anish's compatriot Max Varmadam, he realizes it's hopeless too and walks away. You're right, Robert. Look at that crowd. They're still looking up at the screen, hoping, praying there's a miracle, but it won't happen in this round.
It's packed. I love to see it. So many fans. They stay late into the evening, maybe even missing their dinner reservations to watch these top players go at it. And many of the people who are watching, they're chess players themselves. This is a chess festival. We saw it at the start of the round. They were shaking hands, starting their very own games. And even when their chess game concludes, they want to see what happens in the Masters section. But this is a zugzwang. The playing hall has cleared out. This board has pretty much cleared out, as there's only this white knight on b3. It's doing the heavy lifting, stopping the black pawn from promoting. And as you can see, the producers zooming in on the players as they are in the back corner of the room. Anish gives it a check, but it's futile. There will be zugzwang, and the knight can lose the tempo by just going back to c1 and around if needed. The white king's entering.
Yeah, after this next move, knight c1, the white knight, the black pawn on c2 neutralize each other. Even if you took them off the board, white would be winning. Black's king is forced to give way. The opposition, zugzwang as we call it, when any move makes things worse. Any move leads to a loss, unfortunately. And Anish looks ready to resign. That, I think, was the final move needed. The final accurate idea from Abdusattorov. Giri looks at his opponent. Any second now, Robert. Any second now.
There it is. There are the handshakes. You called it. And the game is called in Nodirbek Abdusattorov's favor. The Uzbek Super Grandmaster gets a huge victory for him in classical chess. He is now at 4.5 out of 7. The players, they talk about the game, but what a game it was from Abdusattorov. David, it was a clean finish, and just he had the upper hand. He never relinquished that control.
Yeah, always the one making the magic happen, Abdusattorov. He was the one trying to attack from an early stage. He was the one who ground it down from a slightly superior endgame. And Giri, in the end, had to contend against accuracy in the high